The President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. I hand over to the lead co-lawyers for the civil party to continue the questioning. Mr. Lau Junti. Thank you and good afternoon. In the interest of time, I would suggest that the witness respond briefly and concisely to the question. We left off just now with the information about the cooperatives. You said there were meetings at Prakau Pagoda to discuss the evacuation of people to different locations, particularly to impart them in the advanced cooperative. Witness, I did respond to that question earlier on concerning the meeting at Prakau Pagoda. The chairman at that time emphasized that we had to transform from socialism to democratic socialism, and there were discussions in that meeting concerning that particular topic. He said that everything was over. Now what we had to focus on was the cooperative task. And I could not elaborate further, but at that time we tried to strengthen the advanced cooperative throughout the country, because before that there were only such cooperative in only certain region, but as a measure we want to strengthen this form of cooperative to be widespread across the country, and we want it to be united internally so that we can strengthen our force. Thank you. Following the victory of the 17th of April 1975, did the party intend to publish or print a bank note in order to transact in the economy? As for the bank note, following the liberation of Phnom Penh, actually the bank note was printed earlier on until late 1974. There were separate bank notes of the Democratic Cambodia, and that bank note was deposited in a building, in a warehouse at close to Wat Phnom, but it was not in circulation yet. And it was not used as the means of payment. But as for printing, it had already been printed, but it was not put into circulation. Thank you. What was the reasons behind not using the printed bank note? Was there any plan to eliminate bank note entirely? Respond. As I said in my statement earlier, the bank note were printed, but it just was not put in circulation. It probably the time was not ripe yet to circulate the bank note. But I would like to know whether or not there was a policy that the bank note were to be abolished and there was no private possession were allowed. Was that embodied in the policy? Yes, as the plan, the printed bank notes were not put into circulation, and the market system was not operational. And it was the decision of the leadership that the market was not put to functioning, and the money was not put in circulation. That's all I knew at that time. Question. There was such a decision, but was that decision disseminated? Response. No, it was not disseminated. We only learned about it in a very narrow situation. It was actually made known to only a select few in making the decision. At that time, people did not know that the banknote had been printed because there was a strong sentiment at that time that we had to eliminate private ownership and we had to combat against corruption. So we wanted everything to be in collective property. At that time, cows and buffaloes were everywhere, and they belonged to the collective. I move to the next point. You said that you met Khieu Samphan, and Khieu Samphan told you that you could show the guests around. But I would like to ask you whether or not you knew about the role and decision making vested with Khieu Samphan back then. Response. I knew him since 1971. He was a very well-known intellectual. Pong was the predecessor, and then his successor was Duen. And the public at large knew about him. And they said that when Duen disappeared, he was in charge of office age 70. And when there was a foreign guest visit to the East Zone, he was the one to authorize us to accompany the visit of foreign guests to the East Zone. And I had to go through that administration. So once I got the approval, then security was ensured, because whenever there were foreign visits, the main issue before us was security. So security was the top on the agenda of the touring the foreign visitors. Because following the liberation, there were still problems of power struggles in different zones, because each zone leader wanted to be the leader for their respective region. So we had to ask for permission from office age 70. Unless there was an approval from the age 70, did we go to different location where we wanted to introduce to our foreign guests. So we had to ask for prior approval from Office 870. Question. My question to you was concerning the role of Khieu Samphan. How much power did he have in Office 870? In late 1978, it's my own guess, but it may be a close guess. Ieng Sari told me that even at the central level there were some complicated matters, and at that time he was also a member of the Central Committee, and he was designated to take the place of Duen, and I thought that he was member of the Standing Committee, and he was in charge of welcoming guests on receiving credentials from foreign guests, and also looking at other national administrative matters. Question. Can you tell the court about the relationship between Office B1 with Khieu Samphan's office? Response. B1 related to all offices across the country, because B1 ministry and the staff wanted to know any information about the situation in the country. We had to go to Office 870, because 870 devised the political plan as well as the administrative affair of the nation. So we had to go there to get information and decision. Question. You said just now that there were difficulties immediately after the liberation, because certain leaders in the zones wanted to be, they wanted to arrange their respective location. But later on, did you know that some of the zone leaders disappear mysteriously? Did you know that? Respond. I did not know that in detail. But problems persisted, and the security issue in particular posed a problem, particularly in 1977, and then later on the leaders of some zones disappeared. And as I said, only certain zones did not were not in good terms with Pol Pot. So it may have been the reason why they disappear. Question. How about Koi Thun? What happened to him? Response. As far as I know, Koi Thun was then appointed to be the Secretary of Commerce following the liberation, and then he mysteriously disappeared, and I did not know the reason behind his disappearance. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Mr. Witness, and I thank you. I would like to now hand over to my international colleague to continue.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon to all of you, and good afternoon, witness. I'm going to finish today's hearing by putting a few questions to you. You have already provided us with a lot of clarification. You have answered many questions already from the prosecution, from my colleague, and as far as I'm concerned, I would like to focus on a few extra details and maybe ask you for a bit of clarification so that I may understand better what happened. My questions are just follow-up questions that are going to follow a chronological order based on the events that occurred. And we will start with this meeting that took place at the beginning of April 1975, during which the evacuation of Phnom Penh was planned. You explained during the proceedings, and you already said this to the investigating judge, that you had heard what was being said during that meeting at the beginning of April 1975. And you said that you heard the reasons that were provided, which were, if people were going to remain in the cities, they would be hard to control. And you also said that you had heard that the example of Udon was mentioned, and you said that the people approved strongly this project and that they even applauded. So my question is the following. Since you heard all of this information, did you also hear that this evacuation was going to be organized in a very special way because there were too many people in Phnom Penh? Did they mention any specific form of organization in order to evacuate all of these people in Phnom Penh?
On this point, I have already answered. I mentioned that I was guarding at that time, and the presenter was Pol Pot, and other leaders also agreed with Pol Pot, and the rest agreed with the three leaders, and then all of them applauded. And that was said about the evacuation of the city. No minor details were mentioned in that meeting.
Thank you. Let me put to you a more specific question. Did you hear then about the way the people were going to be fed once they were evacuated? The way that they would be given water to drink, the way that they were going to be, the way that the elderly were going to be taken care of, as well as children, as well as people who were sick. Did you hear anything about these matters during the meeting?
As I said just now, I did not know the detail of the plan, and as I also said that during the meeting, minor details were not elaborated either.
Thank you for having let me know that the minor details were not considered. Now let me move on to my following question. You arrived in Phnom Penh on 19 April and you explained what you had seen to us during the proceedings, and you had already explained this to the investigating judges. You said that you had seen bodies along the roads, And you just said to us now that you saw people carrying currency and people who did not want to get rid of this currency. Did you also see people who were ill, people who had trouble walking, women carrying children, people who were facing a lot of hardship?
Talking about the evacuation, of course, those people who were evacuated must experience hardship. That was needless to say, because those people got used to living in luxurious life. For example, they stay in the aircon room or so, but when they were being evacuated, they sweat all over their body. So, of course, they endure hardship when they were being evacuated. But when we try to fight in order to liberate city, we also endure a lot of hardship. We risk our life in order to liberate city. And people who simply left the city, it was not considered that difficult.
Thank you. Then you entered Phnom Penh and you told the investigating judge on 5 December 2007 in document E3/24, and you said the following. Maybe I can mention the ERN, or I can just read the sentence in order to go faster, and then I can provide the ERNs in all three languages if you agree to that. Is that possible? Thank you. So in this document, E3/24, the French ERN 00503921, English ERN 00223582, Khmer 00204069. And you say the following. To the contrary, at that time, they told us that they feared or to be careful of the forces, or that we had to be vigilant in relation to the forces hiding in the houses, even though the large forces had already been eliminated. Can you tell me what these forces hiding inside the houses meant?
The hiding forces normally, when the main forces were defeated, then the hiding forces would probably hide out in houses, and they prepared plots with grenades and other ammunitions or so. So if we did not get rid of those forces, then they would probably resist or rebel against us. Then it would pose the threat to the revolution. So when we carried out revolution, we had to be the master of the situation. If we could not catch up with the evolving situation, we would fail. So we had to get rid of the hiding forces. There were hiding forces out there, even though they were defeated, but it does not mean that the forces were defeated entirely, because there were still elements who wanted to uprise against the regime. That's why there were forces hid out in the houses. There were that possible scenarios, because even in the liberated zones there were some bad elements over there, and there were enemies and spies hidden in the liberated zone. That's why the air raids could attack some of the location. That's why we had to master the situation. So as we see, even if we evacuated people from Phnom Penh, we could control the country for only 3 years and 8 months. And if we did not get rid of those elements, we did not know as to how many we could hold on to the power.
There were plenty of people, including the KGB, the CIA agents.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, did you yourself were you able to ferret out any enemies who were ensconced in those houses, and what did you do with them afterwards?
Response. After the evacuation, I did not see more enemies. I think there was no more enemies. That's why I could survive and testify before the chamber. If they lived, I could have been smashed. The President, Council, you're on your feet, I know. You may proceed. Council for Mr. Ieng Sari, National Council, you may now proceed. Council Ang Odam, Mr. President, the question that put to the witness were more on a hypothetical nature. The President, Council, you may proceed.
Oui. The only hypothetical aspect was related to the witness's answer. I do not believe that my question was at all based on assumptions. My next question is with respect to the treatment of Lon Nol soldiers. Were there any special instructions with respect to how former soldiers under the Lon Nol regime were to be treated?
Response. Those soldiers were defeated. They surrendered. The white flag was hoisted or raised, so we did not do anything to harm them. People were advised strictly not to do any harm to those people who were defeated.
Monsieur le Président, Mr. President, with your leave, I wish to refer to document D22, stroke 2189. I wish to read a very short passage from this document, which is on the French ERN pages 008 to 7033. The equivalent ERN pages in Khmer are 00245667. Unfortunately, I was not able to obtain the English translation. My apologies to my Anglo-Saxon colleagues. This is a declaration made by a civil party. Do I have your leave, Mr. President, to proceed?
The President, you may proceed.
Cette partie civile indique. The civil party says the following. On the 17th of April 1975, the parents of my spouse, Mr. Leng Feng, who was a former colonel under the Lon Nol regime, as well as his 4 elder brothers, Feng Pros, Feng Pon, Feng Pik, Feng Pu, were shot at their home in the vicinity of the Central Market in Phnom Penh. On the same day, an uncle of my spouse, who's also a Lon Nol soldier, as well as his wife, Samrong, and their 3 children, were also shot by the Khmer Rouge at their homes located near the Central Market in Phnom Penh. Mr. Witness, does this refresh your memory with respect to any specific events?
Response: I'm afraid not. I don't know.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. And once again, that was a statement made by a civil party. Let us now turn to B1. In your interview E3/24 on the 9th page of the French version and on ERN pages 00223585 of the English version and in the Khmer version 00204071, you stated that when there were disappearances, which you had described this morning, nobody talked about those disappearances. Mr. Witness, can you please tell me if you were bound to secrecy? Can you tell us the reason why you were forbidden from talking about those disappearances?
Response: when we were told that we had to keep secret, then we had to.
Est-ce qu'on vous demandait de garder...
Were you asked to respect secrecy with respect to those disappearances?
Response: there was no secrecy concerning people who disappeared. Those who disappeared had just disappeared.
Puis-je savoir pourquoi?
Can I please ask you why you are not elaborating on this?
Response: it was part of the revolutionary secrecy.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Now, witness, did you fear for your own security in light of those disappearances?
Response: I think I stated in my statement already that I was afraid, in particular by late 1978. The reason that I had reason to be concerned because I was asked to rewrite my personal biography. By doing so, I felt worried because there was reason behind this. Ieng Sari said that he himself was asked to rewrite his own personal biography, and that applied to Brother So Hong and to me. So I felt that if the other two people would disappear and I too would disappear. That's why I was very afraid. However, I was very adamant that I respected and dedicated my life under the revolutionary flag, and I did my best for the cause of revolution. If I had to die because of that, there's nothing I could do about it, because I took an oath that I solemnly determined to serve the party. We had nothing to fear. So that's what I had told myself.
Based on what you've just told this chamber, am I to gather that to disappear was tantamount to dying?
Response: I'm not sure whether people who disappeared died or alive. I don't know. Because a lot of senior people, including Sao Pum, Khoi Thuon, Sao Pum, Ching On, a lot of these senior people disappeared. In Office 870, the very close people to me, including Pang and Duen, also disappeared. So the great number of people in the whole country in various zones also had disappeared. Hu Yun, Hu Nam were nowhere to be found. So with that in mind, I couldn't help but being fearful.
Merci. Vous avez, à propos...
Thank you. Now, regarding those disappearances, you indicated earlier that soldiers from Y10 came to B1 and made arrests. Were you aware of the raison d'être or the function of that office, Y10?
Response: Y10 unit was a military unit attached to the standing or central office to give protection to this particular office of the center.
Est-ce que Y10...
Was Y10 reporting to Office 870?
Response: yes, it was also under the supervision of 870.
Thank you. In your interview, classified under E363, English ERN 0023141110, in Khmer 00228843, and in the French version, ERN numbers... Pardon me, I seem to have a little problem. I'll only be in a position to provide you with the English and Khmer ERN numbers. You were asked the following with respect to a statement made by Duke. Duke said that you brought people to S21. You replied, no. Are you aware of any other individuals from B1 who were given the responsibility of bringing people to S21? Or at least responsible for taking people beyond the borders of Y10 to any other location?
Response: this morning I stated that it was Y10 force that brought people from B1 to anywhere I never know. But for me, I also brought people there. I don't remember, I don't know as, or rather I didn't know S21 I was told to only take people to a particular house where they would be housed. And I only remember that people were taken to 870. I don't know, or I didn't know as 21. I only took people to office 870 where other people would take them further from there.
Je vous remercie. Je vais...
Thank you. I wish now to address the topic of Beng Trabek, with respect to which you've already provided this chamber with some explanations, and you said, most notably in your interview classified under E3/24 on the 12th page of the French version, on ERN page in Khmer 00204074, and on the English ERN pages 00224387. You said that when B1 was responsible for Beng Trabek, the conditions were not as terrible as they were previously. Can you please describe some of the conditions that reigned before B1 took over, and why the conditions were not as bad after B1 took over?
Response. Through what I learned from meeting those intellectuals, at B1 there was lack of everything: food, rice. Sometimes they provided foods once every 10 to 15 days. However, after this unit was under new control of new people, then there was no such lack of food. People could grow their own vegetables to feed the people there, and there was even meat, pork, fish, and beef. So the life of the people in this new location was much better, and people had enough to eat. When they had enough to eat, they could sleep very well. There was less there was not the situation was not difficult by then late 1978.
Quels étaient les...
What were the intellectuals put to do at Beng Trabek?
Response. I was there to manage the location. I asked people to grow vegetables. However, I said if it was too difficult to grow the vegetables, they could then decide not to do so. And at that time, people asked if they could listen to radio. So I brought a radio for them to listen to the news inside and outside. So I asked them to even just listen to the radio broadcast if they wished, and I asked them to temper themselves by growing vegetables. I told them that they did not need to grow the vegetable for the purpose of feeding other people. Instead, they grew the vegetables to feed themselves, to make sure that they self-sustained. So as long as they could manage well, then we had enough forces and people could be refashioned and they could join force to build the country. At the ministry, they had enough people to those who be able to speak foreign languages, those who had skills in diplomacy and other skilled people. So when to correct oneself, to be in line with the revolutionary movement would not be difficult. And I just told them that it was not difficult. You just stay there. You had enough food to eat, and even coffee. They have abundant amount of coffee. We could really, the coffee could feed people for 20 years, if you like. I just told them so because we got plenty of available food there.
Je vous remercie, monsieur.
Thank you very much. Were there any disappearances from Bang Trabek?
Response. When I was there for a short while, I did not recall having seen anyone being disappeared. But I cannot speak for my predecessors. I did not know what happened during their supervision. And I don't know where people at Bang Trabek fled. On the 6th of January, I met Bong Hao Nam Hong all the way to Kwa Krolo location. I met him there. And he said that he was fleeing the country and fled all the way to France and coming back to become a senior individual or officer in here.
Monsieur, vous dites...
Sir, you said that you didn't observe any disappearances, but did you hear about any disappearances from Bang Trabek?
Response. I did not hear anything about disappearance.
Je vous remercie, monsieur.
Thank you very much, sir. I have no further questions. I wish to thank you. That brings me to a conclusion of my examination. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
The President. Thank you, Counsel, and thank you, Mr. Witness. The Chamber notes that it is now appropriate time for today's adjournment. Already, the testimony of Mr. Rocham Ton will be continued tomorrow by 9 a.m. For tomorrow's sessions, questions will commence from Counsel for Noon Chia before the other two defense teams. Mr. Rocham Ton, your testimony has not yet come to an end. We would like to invite you to give the testimony again tomorrow. starting from 9 a.m. Mr. Duty Counsel, you are also advised to come and assist the witness tomorrow. Court officer is now instructed to assist the witness during the adjournment and have him return to the courtroom by 9 a.m. Security personnel are now instructed to bring all the 3 accused persons back to the detention facility and have them return to the courtroom by 9 a.m. The court is adjourned.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ